So for the past few weeks, we've been in the season called Epiphany, from the light that appeared in Bethlehem for all the world to see and that the world has heard about for 2,000 years. And this is the last Sunday of Epiphany. And let me just say for the record, I'm glad this is the last Sunday I will see green for some time. The text this week posed a bit of a challenge when it comes to preaching. The lectionary writers failed to include in the reading from 2 Kings a story many of you probably have never heard. After Elisha becomes the new preacher in town, he goes to Bethel. And the boys, I sort of fancy them to be teenage boys, because teenage boys do this, started making fun of the new prophet. They called him bald-headed. And the part that you never hear is that after they called him bald-headed, Elisha got rather upset. And out of nowhere, 2 bears come out of the woods and maul 42 young boys. I decided not to really try to interpret that for all of you here this morning. An equally challenging text is the story of the Transfiguration. Jesus goes up to the top of a mountain with just a handful of his disciples, and something happens at that mountaintop. God intervenes, God appears, God's Spirit somehow shows up. We hear the disciples are terrified, and it's one of the few times that Peter's at a loss for words. He's so scared. But Peter does say this, and he says it, I believe, for me and probably for many of us. After this God moment, or whatever happens, Peter says, Lord, let's just stay here. This is pretty good. I have been on umpteen retreats, both personal, church, and youth. You have as well. And you have a great weekend, and you feel closer to God. An epiphany goes off for you. Something becomes clear and makes sense. And you kind of want to stay where you are, don't you? To see if life can become even more clear. But guess what? We have to go back to Monday morning. And sometimes I wake up on Monday morning and I don't feel like I have much light to share with myself, much less the world. That's the way it is with these encounters with God and these epiphanies. They come in moments of great clarity and in being on the mountaintop, and then we have to go back down the mountain and go back into the muck and usualness of the world. I've been to that place of Transfiguration, Mount Tabor, where it allegedly occurred. You go up this really windy road to get to the top. You go in this beautiful basilica. It's a Franciscan monastery there. You look out over the whole plain, and it's quite beautiful. You make your way back down, and to get out, you have to go through a gift shop. It's very tempting, isn't it, to have some mountaintop experience and to say, I just want to stay here and not go anywhere. But yet we are called, as Christian folk, as disciples of Jesus, to leave even this beautiful place here this morning and to go out into the world and to be the light of the world. Following our service, I invite you all to our annual meeting, at which time we will talk about the ministry that you have done in this past year. We'll talk about where we are as a church. And while we rightfully have a lot of things to be proud of and that you have done, I want to say very clearly that we should not rest on our laurels and say we've done everything we can do. When Jesus called his disciples, he said, "Come and follow me. Come and move. Come and walk. Be in motion. Come and follow." Jesus didn't say to his disciples, "Come and rest with me." He didn't say, "Come and let's just settle down." He said, "Come and follow me." Jesus ever meeting new people on the road, new encounters, new ways of being a minister and a teacher. That is what the life of a disciple is. So while we, at the annual meeting, will give thanks to all the wonderful ministry that you have done, that ministry still continues. We don't sit back and say we've arrived and it's time to settle down. I don't know if you've heard that blessing that we have been sharing during this Epiphany time. For me, and for you, but for me, it's a difficult blessing, is it not? Hear it again. May Christ, the Son of God, be manifest in you. May Christ, the Son of God, be manifest in you. In you, in you, in you, in you, in you. It's a hard blessing to hear, is it not? Because on Monday mornings, I don't feel like I have much light to share with the world. But as a disciple of Christ, that's what I am called to do. May Christ be manifest in you, that your lives may be a light to the world. The blessing doesn't say you have to solve all the world's problems. And Lord knows there are a lot of problems in our world. There is a lot of darkness. There's a lot of war. There's a lot of terror. There are a lot of people fighting, even people fighting within their families. There is a lot going on in our world that's a challenge. So while you cannot solve all the world's problems, you are called to be but a light, even if it's a glimmer of hope and hopefulness for another person. I saw that occur this week with many of you who worked around the clock as volunteers for our hypothermia prevention shelter. I saw it in all of you, even if you were in the back of the kitchen preparing food, down the hallway making sandwiches, driving across the county to pick up our neighbors. I saw that light in all of you this week. One particular day I was driving up Seidenstricker and past the back parking lot, and as I looked over, I saw one of our volunteers helping a guest change a flat tire. His tire had been flat all week, and he had been saving up money from his job in order to repair his tire. And as I passed our parking lot, I looked over and I saw this person helping a guest. That's being part of the light. That's offering a glimmer of hope to someone who I suspect for most of his days has not been treated very kindly, not been spoken to very kindly. living in a very different world, a world of darkness. And if even for a moment, if even for a week, if even for a night, we showed this blessing. You all can do that. I've seen you do it. I've seen you do it. So while we have done a lot of wonderful things here at St. Andrews, and I want to thank you for your ministry, this shared ministry. Jesus said, "Come follow me." Keep moving, keep in motion, keep encountering people. Keep coming up with new ways to minister to each other and for each other and to other people. May Christ, the Son of God, may the Son of God be manifest in you, that your lives may be a light to the world. Amen.